Hello again, everyone. My name is Radio Mike. This is the Inside of My Mind, and we're back again for episode 3 of Digimon Adventure 2020. I'm reviewing every episode. I've done 2 videos already, so go and check them out if you haven't. And welcome to my channel, by the way. I'd love for you to subscribe. Most people that watch these videos are not subscribed, but I do a bunch of videos on all things pop culture, including video games, music, movies, TV shows, all those kinds of things. And I'd love for you to check out some of my other videos. So subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Let's launch straight into the review for this week. So again, we're continuing with a series that is totally removed and different from the original series that it's based on, but also drawing heavily, like having a lot of different inspirations from that show within it. For example, it appears that we have now just done the entire original movie, Our War Game, in the first 3 episodes of this series. We've pretty much done exactly what happens in Our War Game, which is really, really interesting. And now, at the end of this episode, we've basically ended up with Tai in the digital world for the first time in this series. Tai and Matt in the last episode, it ended on a cliffhanger where both Greymon and Garurumon have DNA digivolved into Omnimon. We now see Omnimon fight and take down Algamon, this enemy cyber Digimon that is taking over the internet, causing a lot of trouble in the real world by launching missiles that are going to completely blow up Tokyo. And this is super cool. The first half of this episode is pretty much just a fight scene, and it's really awesome and very, very reminiscent of what happens in that original movie, Our War Game. Basically, exactly what happens in that movie, except in that movie it's Diaboromon as opposed to Algamon. It is really interesting that we did get Omnimon so soon, because it kind of begs a question as to where everything is leading up to. One of the things I didn't particularly love about this episode was neither Tai nor Matt are surprised or like dumbfounded by what they're seeing. They seem to just accept that Omnimon has happened and they're just like going with the flow. I would have liked to see them have a little bit more surprise about what's happened and be confused and actually responding how I would expect them to be responding in all of this. And also the fact that this is all happening before everything else happens, whereas the thing about Our War Game and why the appearance of Omnimon was so awesome was because you had seen both Matt and Tai slowly develop their relationship and friendship over the course of the entire series, getting to their megaforms, and then finally in this movie, as a surprise, their Digimon combine to make Omnimon this incredibly powerful monster. And I guess in this one, it didn't quite have the same effect, because this is before they even have a friendship, before they even really have any sort of relationship, any sort of conflict. So it's just sort of happened. I think what made it so special the first time is you watch that friendship develop to a point where this could happen, whereas this sort of suggests that it can happen no matter what. I still thought Omnimon looked amazing, and I loved Tai and Matt riding on his shoulders like they do in Our War Game, but they had this really great orange and blue glow between Tai and Matt respectively, which are definitely the colors we've come to associate with those characters. Orange, which is the color of Agumon and Greymon and Tai's crest, whereas blue is the color of Garurumon and Gabumon and Matt's crest. So I really thought that it was just a cool little effect to see them glowing and having that energy surging through them. After this fight is complete and the missile is deferred from Tokyo to explode in the sky, Tai seems to return to the real world and he meets up again with Izzy. Again, I use the Western names because they're the ones I'm most familiar with. And thanks Izzy for all his help on the outside. I'm still trying to figure out if they're living still in Odaiba, which is where they originally lived, or if they're living somewhere else in Tokyo. We get a scene when they're back in the real world of Matt sitting outside like the back of his house, and he's clearly talking to TK on the phone saying, yeah, like, now that it's the summer vacation, I can come and visit you in Tokyo. So if anything, we can confirm that Matt doesn't live in Tokyo in this series, whereas TK does. So that's pretty interesting, and we're still going for this storyline with Matt and TK that they're brothers that have been separated by their parents' divorce, and they really miss each other and yearn for each other and want to be together. By the end of this episode, Ty and Izzy have gone to the summer camp, which is where the original series starts. So they're now sort of chilling in this summer camp environment, talking about what's happened. Izzy has this theory that artificial intelligence becomes Digimon, and that's where all of this has started from. It's from this development of artificial intelligence. They've grown into their own kind of things, which are the Digimon, which is an interesting take on it that seems a bit different from the original series. And Izzy's really doing some investigating into what's caused all of this, which is cool. We do see a glimpse of Joe, who is the camp leader, but we don't have any of the characters actually directly interact with Joe. He's just sort of there in the background. However, we are introduced in this episode for the first time really to Sora, who looks much different, personally I think, to her original counterpart. And she and Ty have known each other for a long time in this series, which again seems similar to the original, but Ty says to Izzy, yeah, we go back way beyond just going to school together, which is interesting, and I'd like to hear more about their friendship and how they know each other in this series. Izzy is sort of marveled by Sora because he's heard all about her and how cool she is from other people in his class that know her. And it also appears that the next episode is going to be pretty heavily surrounded by Sora and Biyomon and Bertramon. Interestingly, we have still not seen Tentomon, Izzy's Digimon partner, or Biyomon, Sora's Digimon partner, but by the end of this episode, we find Ty in the digital world, the real digital world, not like the net or the network that he's been fighting in already. He's now in a digital world with digital looking water and a lot of dinosaur themed Digimon walking around. Agumon is there to greet him. He comments on the fact that it looks really different, and Agumon says, "This is our home, this is where we come from, this is the digital world that we live in." And we only really see Ty in there. None of the other chosen children are in the digital world that we can see, but I assume from the next episode preview that at least Sora is, and possibly Izzy as well. A few key points that I thought were interesting is we get another glimpse of the feather next to Corey in this episode, which again, I believe represents Anjuwamon, and the feather from the previous episode for TK represents Anjumon, but it doesn't seem like Corey is going to be joining the digital world at the same time as the other children are, which does reflect the original series, but that could possibly change. I am really liking this change to the narrative style where we're not just sort of dumped all this information in this first episode where there's 7 kids, 7 Digimon in training forms, and 7 rookie forms that we see. I think that it's cool getting to know the characters a bit more and focusing on their relationships. Interestingly, Ty and Izzy seem to be building this really strong friendship with each other, which wasn't as prevalent in the original series. And Ty and Matt's friendship does seem to have that aspect of anonymity to it as well that we saw in the original series. So I'm excited to see where Matt goes. He's definitely still a loner and a bit of a lone wolf and not really being part of the gang, to the point where he doesn't appear to even live in Tokyo. So that's interesting as well. Going back to the appearance of Omnimon so early, which a lot of people seem a little bit like worried about or confused about because they don't know where it's going to build up to, because again, Omnimon was that ultimate final evolution for the original series, and now we've seen him so early, you wonder what we have to look forward to, I suppose. I don't think that necessarily matters. I still think we're gonna get all of our standard evolutions. Again, I said last week I'd love to see some branched evolutions, some different evolutions. One of my viewers did suggest that maybe we could get Victory Greymon as an alternate to War Greymon, and I think that'd be really cool. I'd love to see some fresh takes on these old characters coming out in this series. I do see it happening as Matt and Ty not being able to reach Omnimon again for some time. Like, I don't think we're gonna see Omnimon come out again. I could be wrong though. A viewer question this week came in the comments of the last video from Ramon Castro, who asks, after seeing Algamon as the villain, do you think Algamon or Diaboromon was more of a threat? Personally, I see them both as pretty interchangeable. I don't think that either one is stronger or more of a threat than the other. I think that Algamon may as well have been Diaboromon, to be honest. I don't think there's any particular difference between them. I think they just wanted to change up the villain to represent this new series. I don't really think either of them are that different, but yeah. Leave a comment below if you want your question answered next week. I really like talking about this series and speculating on it. This is the most invested I've been in the series for such a long time, and it is really awesome. I'm glad to have you on board. I'll be back next week with a review of episode 4. In the meantime, during the week, you might as well check out my podcast, 20th Century Boy, or my other podcast, which is more of a gaming-themed podcast, and that's called Popped, a pop culture podcast. Go and check them out. There's a bunch of content there that's all sort of nerd culture and millennial culture, so please check them out. I also have a band, Release the Sounds. We do comedy punk music, and our first single is about a guy who falls in love with a puppet. The music video's on screen now. Would love for you to check it out. Other than that, subscribe and like and share it with a friend, and send me a message and get in touch on any of my socials. Radio.Mike on Instagram, It's Radio Mike on Twitter. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me this week. My name's been Radio Mike, and this has been The Inside of My Mind. Catch you later.
I hold you close the moment last I touch your skin, but I went to run my hand through your hair and I noticed you were attached to string. You were a puppet this whole time, you were attached to string. You were a puppet this whole time.